And now we're going to hear something from Shauna Marshall.
Thank you. I brought this for Mick. I brought one for each of you, so I guess I'll just give it to him. They say that memories are the best way to honor an important person in your life. I think that some memories create monuments in your heart to the people that have loved and nurtured you into becoming the person that you are. I stand here today with a tremendous amount of love and respect for the man who was more important to me than he probably even knew. I wish I could say I remembered the first time that we met. We were working together at the doctor's company, and I was a new mom. I think when I started working there, I found out I was pregnant maybe 3 months after. So I already had 2 children at home, and a husband who was working 2 jobs. So we were, quite a busy family. So all that time was a little fuzzy for me. But I know that Mick instantly became a fixture in my daily life as a work friend, as someone who just shared the same excitement that I had for technology. We ate lunch together a lot. We talked about the thing that we were so passionate about, which was technology. I'd like to say that we were partners in crime, but when it came to the internet, he was definitely the mob boss. He fed me a steady diet of internet through emails. When I first discovered the computer, my mom was a programmer, and actually she's the person who got me the job at the doctor's company and probably introduced me to Mick. And my mom had like the first IBM PC, and back when it cost $5,000 and had 20 megabytes of hard drive. But when I found the Mac, I instantly became it became fascinated with computers. It consumed me, but it became more than just a hobby. It became just this huge passion, and I definitely shared that with Mick. He would just, like I said, feed me stuff all the time. We would send emails, and we used to joke about tapping on our keyboards like people would tap on their cell, the bars in the prison. And we would decorate our cell walls with pictures and memes and different things that were interesting. Aside from all the wisdom that he shared with me, he knew everything. He knew absolutely everything. And I was late 20s, he was very worldly. He was someone that just knew so much, and he was, the father that I didn't really get to experience in my life, and the brother who passed away really early. He was like family to me. He was a person that just instantly became a fixture, like I said, in my life. We'd be talking about bandwidth one day, and the next we'd be designing things of the future. In fact, me standing here with this iPhone, it's very fitting that I'm reading from this iPhone, because we talked about this, back when people were hooking up to the internet through AOL, and I had a 1200 baud modem at home. He introduced me to the well, and he introduced me to bulletin boards. In fact, a very little known fact, I think, back when people dialed into the internet with modems, we started the very first NAPA-net in my garage. We had 2 phone lines. 258 NAPA was one of them, and 2 computers. I think one was donated from Clifford Clark, who was the local internet guru, and the other from one of the head honchos at the doctor's company. So we started with 2 computers, 2 phone lines, and some free shareware, and we started the BBS that eventually Mick carried on to become an amazing project that was so wonderful for the school. Of course, I didn't have any interest in any of that. I wasn't concerned about bringing, internet to the masses. I was more interested in learning everything that I could, and I went on to do work at the doctor's company. But everything that I did, every blessing that I had there at work was direct result of my communication, my contact, and my friendship with Mick. That's kind of a lot to put on someone, but he saw that I was very passionate, and he just developed and nurtured that. And I'm just so grateful to both Catherine and Joanna that they shared him with the world, because he was just a gift, an absolute gift. I wrote, one of the things Catherine mentioned, Mick's frustration with money and manifesting money. It was one of our topics, and kind of led us into our spiritual conversations. I wrote my very first book, Planting the Money Tree, based on a lot of the conversations that we had and a lot of the just new ideas that he introduced me to, the world that he shared with me, the mystical stuff. And, for me, someone who just really didn't have very much exposure to any of that, it was all, I just soaked it all in, and went on to, kind of develop my own spiritual practice and separate from what he was doing. But it really was the beginning of where I started connecting to spirit. He was that, like you called him a conductor or a connector. That's such a perfect thing. I remember regarding manifesting, the day he called me and he said, there are 2 hot tubs for sale. One is free and the other's $1,000. Which one is yours? And I was like, because I had been working on manifesting a hot tub, and some things in my life that financially didn't seem very feasible, but it ended up the $1,000 one was mine, because after all, I did have a good job and I was able to afford it. But the idea is that he was a person of action, and while I was still trying to figure out how to take my dreams and put them into action, he was doing that. He was taking everything and putting it into the universe, and it was it was exploding, literally. The one thing that we did together, I think, at the doctor's company with the internet, we had this huge presentation in the boardroom, and it was the concept, Mick was a great writer, like Mercedes and Bank of America and the doctor's company. We just presented them with this idea that we put them up on a pedestal, and he was so amazing with how he would pull words together. I honestly couldn't have done any of what I did without him. And he kind of moved on to do the NAPANET thing, and I stayed on at the doctor's company to do their website, and eventually I moved on to do a lot of work in the industry, doing fun things, not medical malpractice insurance, but my friendship with Mick is kind of what gave me the courage to move on. We started a group called the Escape Artists, and it was a 12-week course on the artist's way, and every week Mick and myself and probably a dozen people at the doctor's company would get together, and we did the program together. And at the end of it, we had a potluck dinner where we all talked about, okay, what have we learned and what have we accomplished? And at the end I said, well, okay, so money aside, I asked everyone, what would you do now moving forward? And everybody went around the table and said what they would do. And I think at the time I was doing jewelry. So I thought, oh, well, I'd leave the doctor's company and go do my jewelry business. But we got around to the end, and I don't remember exactly what Mick said, but something about singing. Now, I had been horribly affected with stage fright and horribly affected with the ability to get up in front of people. And But I, as a small child, would sing at the, to top of my voice. But, as I grew up, I quieted that voice. And that night, when it came my turn, and to talk about, well, what I would do with money being no factor, I said, I would be a singer. And I started singing right there. And it was like I had no idea that this was what was really in my heart. So when I say that, some people remind you of the path that you're on, some people take you and just put you there. And that's really how I felt, like that dramatic shift. And it took me a few more years after that to get out in front of people and, actually do stuff. But because of what I learned and the growth process, I was able to get out and actually have a singing career and be a professional singer. So there's so many things that he inspired, and even though it's been a really long time since we sat down and had a cup of coffee. Right before Christmas, I ran into him, and we were planning for a spring, a spring meeting. So this wasn't quite what I had in mind. And, I didn't even know that he was sick. He hadn't shared that with me. Of course, our daily lives had converged a long time ago, but, he was one of those people that no matter how long it had been, it was like I'd just seen him yesterday, and, the conversation would just flow. So I just wanted to say how amazing, like the color, when I saw you in that color, and I saw you in that color, it's like that's how I think of Mick. As when I remember Mick, it's in this bright, beautiful blue communication. That was Mick, and I am so grateful to have been the friend of a true Renaissance man. Thank you.